A lot of parents have different hobbies. Some parents have no hobbies. Like some parents just work. My grandfather, he just worked and went to church. Those were his two hobbies until he retired. But my dad's thing was he wanted to play golf. And he was an avid golfer, still is, really into golf. And he wanted me and my sister to be into it because he liked it so much. And since he was there every day he was off, because my mom wasn't hung up on my dad having a long honey-do list, which was nice, which is not like my dad did nothing. He did a lot of chores. But anyway, when I was really little, he'd take me to the course and buy me a Grapico. And when you're a kid, you get something like that, even if it's something that simple. You're just like, hell yeah, I get a Grapico. Yeah, I'll come out to the golf course with you and ride in the cart and play with sticks. But I'd usually want to leave after like 3 holes. And my dad was like, really? Okay. Which I can't believe he listened to me, because in the time I grew up, it was right before parents really, like, their schedule didn't revolve around their kids. The kids revolved around their parents' schedules. So that was cool. And then Dad got me and my sister some clubs, and we got into play. And the golf course was a local municipal course, local muni, owned by the factory he worked at. And it was a good enough course, and we got into playing a little bit. My dad had to bribe us at first, but then I really got into it. My sister played long before I did, but I got into it after, and then I'd hit balls into the field in front of my house, which pissed my dad off to no end, because he didn't like anything that involved waste or anything that worked like that. So I got in a little trouble for that until he decided to cut the grass and have something for me to hit towards. But anyway, we would play, and then when I got to be about 9 years old, I started taking golf more seriously. That became kind of my mainstay. I still played baseball, albeit poorly, as I've stated before. But I really got into golf at age 9, because I remember my sister, I think, was at camp, and my dad worked third shift. And I remember this so well, because I would watch The Price is Right. Actually, take that back. I'd watch the European Tour golf on the Golf Channel, then watch The Price is Right, then I'd watch the top 10 videos on VH1, then I'd make enough noise to wake my dad up, and we'd go play. And back then, there were a lot of members of the course. It was usually pretty crowded. And I always played with my dad, but my dad, when he wasn't with me or my sister, he would play with the retirees. Now, they were not all retirees, but they're usually retired from the factory he worked at. And they played for, I'm trying to remember now, they played for $2, and they played points. Stableford points. Just an easy explanation of points is you are supposed to get so many points in a round, like say 25. If you get them, that means you're even on your points. If you don't get them, you were minus whatever you didn't get. If you go over, you're plus. The more you get, the more you have to get the next time, and so on and so forth. It's a nice system in that if you have a bad hole, it doesn't mess up the round, and it kind of levels the playing field. Like if somebody that's an avid golfer goes out and plays somebody that hasn't played before, if you play points, you can compete, because it's all about who gets their points. But it can lead to a lot of stuff like sandbagging. You probably heard the term before, and I don't know where it came from. It was probably something stupid like you tie a sandbag to a horse or something. But the way it worked was basically you always played worse than you were capable of, keeping your points low until there were a bunch of people, and then boom, you're plus a bunch and you make money. But keep in mind that you're talking $2 a piece and $1 for individuals. So if you had 20 people, the most you're looking to win is nothing. Not very much money, but the less money people play for, the more serious they take it, I've found. But that was what they played. My dad would play that when he wasn't playing with me. I mostly played, I'd go out there by myself when my dad was working. I'd go out there pretty much early in the morning. Summertime, my mom would drop me off. Early in the morning, I'd walk. I don't know how I did all that because I was a fat kid and I was lazy, but I would go out there and walk. And I'd get done at like 9 o'clock in the morning. One thing that happened is people that shouldn't have been thinking got to thinking too much, and they decided they were tired of being under the factory umbrella. So the members got together and said, we're going to buy the course from the factory. It seemed like a great idea at the time. I guess. I was a little too young to understand why they did it. Maybe they didn't like having the company money, I don't know. But the members bought it, and then at one point they sold stock. I think just to help out the course, they sold stock for $150 a piece. My dad didn't buy any because he's a very pragmatic person. He's like, why the hell would I need stock in a worthless golf course? This will become important later. And then when I got to be about 14, I was out on the course all the time. I found another group that played at 8 in the morning. They just played for $2 and they played for points. They were a bunch of old men. And the people out there would always make fun of me because they're like, well, playing with a 7-year-old man, I guess you can't play with your friends. But I did have a friend named Dan that was a member out there. Me and him played some. It's just we were on different schedules. And when I was older, I played with him a good bit. And the course itself was not a difficult course. The first 3 holes were tough, but if you were a good golfer, there were a lot of birdie holes out there, especially when I was older and could hit it further. And it was a birdie fest. But anyway, at one point, they started talking about selling the golf course. They're looking to build a Walmart in the town or city I grew up in, and that was one of the places. See where the stock comes into play? Because if you sold the golf course, the stockholders were going to make some money. Well, my dad was against it because he liked having a golf course, and he was looking to retire out there in his later years and be one of the retirees. But other people were seeing dollar signs. They're like, oh yeah, we can't wait to sell this place. And they talked about it and talked about it and talked about it, and then they never did sell it. They ended up buying the houses next to it for some reason, using eminent domain, and spent a lot more money, but I guess it was worth it for Walmart in the end. That was the Walmart I invariably ended up working at. But they kept having buyers come along, and the stockholders kept wanting to sell, and my dad didn't want to sell, and all this rigmarole is. And I know what you're thinking, well, what's wrong with them trying to make money? Nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. But they didn't buy stock at the time thinking that they would ever have the money come in. But I'd rather have the golf course, but I'm not saying I had the high ground and they were just these evil, greedy people. It's just, I'd rather have the golf course. And then I remember when I was 15, I played with the 8 o'clock bunch every day. Like, I got serious about golf when I was 15, like more serious than I was, trying to get better. I would wake up early, and my dad would get off work, which this is what kind of sucked for him, and this was a nice thing he did. He would get off work right next to the golf course and come and pick me up at our house, nowhere near the golf course. And he'd take me there, and I'd go play golf with that bunch, and I'd play all day. It was great. That was a great summer. I got so much better. I played good golf. I liked the guys I played with. They were older, but they were fun to play with. And one time, I remember this day forever because I went out and shot a 71, which at the time was my career low. I was really proud of it. And I decided I wanted to play some more. So I went and played with my friend Dan, another 9 holes, played pretty well. And then we went out and hit balls, and I got too hot. I'll readily admit it. It was probably July, maybe late June, and it was just hotter than anything. I hadn't drank enough water. And me and him went and sat in the clubhouse, and I remember I got a red Powerade and a Snickers bar. I ate both, and I wasn't feeling too good, but I was all right. And then my dad came to pick me up, and I got to the parking lot, and I threw up red Powerade and the Snickers bar. I'd had heat stroke. I didn't know it at the time. And I said a good thing about my dad, but this will tell you more about his personality. I just had heat stroke, and I was just like in the back seat, just feeling awful, reeling. My son's sick. What would you do? Well, some people take me home, but instead my dad's like, oh, well, you can just stay in the car. We're going to go to Lowe's. Did he leave the car running? No. So let's leave your son, who's had heat stroke on the hottest day of the year, in the car. Not one for sympathy, my dad. And as I got older, when I turned 16, I didn't play as much with that early bunch because I was sleeping in. You remember how it was when you were 16? You didn't want to wake up early, because I sure didn't. And then when I was 17, I tried playing with the low ball out there. They played a very different game. They played a $5 overall, and then they had side bets that were in Nassau. And Nassau style bet is the front 9, the back 9, and the overall. Again, not very much money, but enough to get the juices flowing, and enough for some people to want to ride or die. Now, I was 17, and I was just playing to get practice in for high school golf, trying to get better, because I wanted to play in college, have a little pressure on, play for a little money. Well, things went fine until I won one day. And the next time I came out to play, they decided I was too young to play. They're like, oh, you're 17. You're not old enough. Really? There's 17-year-olds in the Army. But I didn't argue. They just decided. And then you might think, well, were you annoying? No, I was fine to play with. But they just didn't like it, because a lot of people have that Barney Fife syndrome. They're looking to tell someone what to do, and that's what happened. And I played with the 9 o'clock bunch one time, and they didn't care. They're like, hey, whoever, we like your dad. We're happy to play with you. And then when I turned 18 and graduated high school, I played with the low ball, and nobody cared. A year's difference in age, because it was so damn important. I'd play with them all the time. I played with them a couple of years in college, and then as I got older. And what the golf course ran into is fewer and fewer members. More and more people moved off. The kids of the members didn't stay in town. So that meant there was no generational membership. There was no people playing. So no dues coming in, no people buying stuff, because it was a great place to buy stuff. They had great deals on clothes. I really do miss that. And they had a good manager running the place. He was my boss when I worked out there, because I worked out there too, and he was an impossibly thorough man. A lot of people found him annoying. My dad did too, and he was exhausting because he was hung up on every stupid rule and silly thing, but he just took his job serious. I'll give him credit there, because they couldn't run the course without him. And he also had the sweetest job I've ever seen. He would get there early in the morning, open up, work for a couple hours, get off at 10. He'd go play golf, get done playing golf, and go back to work. He did that 6 days a week. So there's not many jobs where you literally just get to play golf in the middle of the day. And the maintenance guy was good. I worked for him too. He did a good job. It's just he couldn't find good help. So what I'm getting to is I went off to college. I wasn't playing as much. The course sold finally when I was, I don't know, 20 or so. It was bought by a guy backing some Cherokee Indians. Now, what they wanted to do was use the land and open a casino, but it is not as simple as that in Alabama. You have to be recognized as a tribe. And the guy backing them was just looking at, hey, they'll have a casino. And the Creek Indians already have casino licenses, and they're going to pay handsomely to not have the Cherokees be recognized as a tribe. And what was funny was, as soon as they bought it, some guy moved out to the golf course. Like, he moved his trailer out there. He put on a show of being the tribal police. And that lasted about a week before he drove his car by Walmart. And the real police are like, you take that off your car right now, or we are taking you to jail for impersonating an officer. Because there's nothing to police. And you could tell how important the guy thought he was, because he was tribal police of the golf course parking lot. And they took it over and got rid of some people and really didn't do that good of a job, because most of them that moved out there thought they were so important, and then they just left one day. Because I think the backer was like, this is going to take years. I don't have the patience for this. And then someone else bought the course who owned like car lots, and he kept it open because I was a member there when I got out of college for a while. And then they finally sold it, I don't know, about 10 years ago. And they built, other than my memories, you wouldn't know it was there. They built like a shopping center on it, restaurants, all kinds of stuff. It kind of sucks because I'd like to go out there and play again, but I can't. The holes that didn't get anything built on have grown up. And it's hard to keep a golf course open. I get that. Even when you have a lot of members, there's overhead, there's income tax, or property taxes, I should say, not income taxes. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it that people don't see. And I miss it. Great memories of growing up there. I would love to go back up there and play again, but it's just not possible. But it was good while it lasted.